Bumbaco. I'm a registered dietitian and board certified specialist in oncology nutrition. And this is the second video of a two-part video series in the month of October, all about nutrition and how nutrition can help support the regulation of our immune function. Isn't that sort of an important topic right now? I know it is for the individuals that I work with. And it's a pleasure to be able to make some suggestions for some nourishing solutions for you, no matter where you are along your cancer care continuum. So in my first video, I introduced what I believe to be 7 key nutrients that are super important to regulate or help our immune system work the best way it can. If you got to see that video, thank you for watching. It is still available for you to view on the YouTube channel. So if you want, go check out the YouTube channel and see a little bit more about the information that I shared, along with a super easy, delicious, seasonal recipe that incorporated those key nutrients that are important for our immune system. So I'm here in the second video to talk about one of the most important components of our immune system and how some of the foods we eat might help support that component. That component just so happens to be our gut. So did you know that our gut is responsible for regulating and sort of orchestrating much of our immune response? In fact, 70%, a whopping 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. So why does food and nutrition matter then? Well, what we eat will determine how our gut functions. And really, it has a lot of jobs to do. So as it turns out, there are trillions, yes, I said trillions of microbes that take residence in our gut. And they have a lot of jobs to do. They're very busy. But primarily for immune function, there's 2 purposes they serve. What they do is they serve as a barrier. So when we have these beneficial microbes that are living in our gut, they sort of act to, really stand guard and act as a protective barrier so that any pathogens that we happen to get exposed to, they don't gain entrance. They're not allowed into our body because our beneficial microbes have taken care of them. The other part of our gut that supports our immune system has to do with inflammation and has to do with our immune response. So our beneficial microbes actually secrete out several different substances that then go help to support and rally up a defense for our immune system. So that's really good to know, right? Because as it turns out, some of the foods we eat can support that process. So we want to help them thrive, these beneficial microbes. We want to help them thrive. And we want to help them work as best as they possibly can. And there's great fuel, as it turns out, in some of our foods to help support that process. So what I thought for our second video is just like the first one. I thought I would identify 7 key foods that can help support our gut and help support our gut's role in immune function. So what I'm going to start out with, and this is all in random order, right? All of these are great. Our first choice has to be the most popular one. So maybe you've heard of yogurt, right? So yogurt is a fermented choice, and most of these are fermented, as we're going to talk about. It's a great choice. So I think I mention this in almost every talk that I give or every video that I've given. I always have a tub of plain Greek yogurt in the fridge because it's a great substitute for sour cream. If you are going to use sour cream in any recipe, think about plain Greek yogurt. It's a great substitution. Now with yogurt on the market, the FDA requires that yogurts use at least 2 different strains of bacteria to ferment to culture the yogurt. So if you look on the label, you will see, typically you will see what cultures were used or beneficial bacteria were used to culture that product. Now some yogurts, they take the liberty to add more. So you may see, comparing brands, you may see some brands have more cultures than others. So just take a peek at that label and see what you might find. All right. Now, let's talk about the second choice. This is sort of an upgrade. This is like yogurt on steroids. It's like beyond. So I have to bring up kefir. So kefir is cultured up to 12 times longer than yogurt is. So what happens is in that process of fermentation, up to 5 to 8 times more beneficial bacteria ends up in the product. And what you'll see, again, if you look on the label, is that most kefir, this particular product, it has more. It has more strains of bacteria. So this has 12 different live and active cultures. Now, kefir may not be something that's familiar to you. I just want you to think of it as like a drinkable yogurt, right? So it's going to be sour tasting. It's a great substitute, just like yogurt is for sour cream. This is a great substitute for buttermilk. So anytime you use buttermilk, this is a 1-to-1 substitution. And I'm going to demonstrate a recipe in just a moment of how you can use kefir. I want you to check the label because most of the kefir that we have available in the standard American diet happens to be sweetened. Same goes for yogurt. They typically are sweetened. So we just want to check for added sugars in our kefir and our yogurt. Number 3 on the list. I have quite the list here. So I gotta go with one of my favorites. This is kimchi. So kimchi, nice little container there. If you've ever had Korean food, you might be familiar with kimchi. So this is mostly cabbage, but sometimes other vegetables are mixed in. This happens to have some radish and onion, but it's fermented. Again, just like all of these choices, it's a fermented choice. So cabbage, let's talk about that. Great cancer fighters in cabbage alone, but when you ferment this, you're going to add some additional beneficial bacteria. It has a nice kind of tangy butter, not buttery, puckery flavor, and I think it's great alone. Great as it is, right? Really adds a great dimensional flavor. But I've read that you can mix kimchi with a little bit of yogurt and it will taste like pimento cheese. Who knew? I've not tried it yet, so if you get a chance to try it, you're gonna let me know. I think that would be interesting. It certainly would be an upgrade from pimento cheese, right? But that's number 3 on the list. Number 4, I'm gonna use something very similar to kimchi, and that's an American favorite. Well, sort of an American favorite for a topping for hot dogs. That's our sauerkraut, but not just any sauerkraut. So this is also cabbage, but this is fresh and this is fermented. So you'll find this refrigerated, and cabbage has bacteria, beneficial bacteria, already residing on the outside. And so when it's fermented, it just allows that beneficial bacteria to flourish within the product. But if it's pasteurized or heated, then we lose those beneficial bacteria. So I want you to look for fresh sauerkraut. It's typically in the refrigerated section. Now sauerkraut, okay, it kind of goes with hot dogs, but I look at sauerkraut as being something like a pickle. So it's a good replacement for pickles in any way that you might use pickles. I want you to try this, and you're going to get some beneficial bacteria when you do that. What are we on here? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on number 5. I think for number 5, I have to go with my favorite. This is my favorite on the list. So I have to mention to you my favorite plant protein, and that's tempeh. So tempeh is fermented soybeans, and typically it's fermented, I broke it in half, it's fermented in a cake, and they ferment it alongside other grains. So this particular product happens to have brown rice as well as millet and barley and it ferments in this cake, right? So we get some beneficial bacteria there, but also a great source of protein, plant protein especially, and also some fiber. So what I like to do with tempeh is one of two things. I like to take it as is and just slice it and marinate it. So you could bake it. You can even put this on the grill. It's a great choice for like a veggie and tempeh kebab. My second best application is to crumble it. So I literally will take this and use my hands and crumble this and then substitute this ground tempeh for ground beef. So think about tempeh tacos or a stuffed pepper with ground tempeh. It's an amazing substitution for ground beef. It's going to give you that much better nutrition, but also too, it's fermented, right? Good for the gut. The gut's going to respond very nicely to that. So that's number 4 on the list. Is that number 4? That's number 5. So number 6 on the list is another one of my favorites. And I can't mention gut health and nutrition and flavor without mentioning miso. So what I want to do is just open up this container so you can see miso. So if you've ever had Japanese, then maybe you've had miso soup. So this is white miso, and this is just sesame paste that has been fermented. And this is white miso, which is the most mild out of all the misos. And talk about umami. If you're familiar with that word umami, that means basically savory. And it's an explosion of flavor. But the way I like to describe umami, and especially miso, because miso is like the epitome of umami, miso is like an experience. So anytime you can use a little bit of miso, it's going to bring to you and to your dining experience that much more. It's going to elevate the whole experience. So the way I like to use miso is with sauces or a marinade. So I might marinate my tempeh in a miso dressing or sauce, or sometimes I'll just spoon a little bit of miso into a soup or a stew at the end. So take a seasonal soup like pumpkin chili, maybe you made a vegetarian pumpkin chili. You could add a little spoon of miso at the end. And it's going to add, again, some beneficial bacteria. Great for the gut. Really great choice. Okay. The last one on my list, number 7, last but not least. Another one of my favorites, and I have to share it. So this one is not a food, but another beverage. This is Kombucha. So this is just one brand of many kombuchas on the market. And it's basically tea that has been fermented with what they call a SCOBY. So SCOBY stands for a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, a SCOBY. And I love kombucha as a substitute for what sweet beverages that we might be drinking. So if we drink soda or tea that's sweet, or if we drink diet soda or diet tea, and we're looking to minimize those choices, this is a great substitution. It gives that effervescence and that tang, but not for the sugars, right? So we get more nutrition in this bottle. Beneficial bacteria reside in this bottle. You'll see it floating on the bottom. So if you're not going to drink the whole bottle, give it a good shake before you drink it. I also like the fizz and the effervescence in kombucha. So if you're somebody who's looking to reduce alcohol consumption, this is another great substitution. It's a great kind of mocktail. And you might find you are happy with drinking kombucha and minimizing some of those other choices that I mentioned. Okay, so I highlighted my top 7 foods for gut health. But what I want to show you is how to use some of them. I'm going to use one choice in particular, this kefir. So this kefir, I want to show you a couple of different ways to use it. So the first is in overnight oats. So did you know today, October 29th, happens to be National Oatmeal Day? Did you know that? So here's a trendy version of oatmeal. This is overnight oats. So in this mason jar, here's what I did. 5 ingredients in this mason jar. Really easy. I took half a cup of oats, and I used old-fashioned oats. And then I mixed that with half of a cup of liquid. So my liquid could be any liquid I want it to be, but I decided to use kefir. So I used half a cup of this kefir. I mixed that in. Then I used 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and you could use any nut butter that you might like. And then I used a tablespoon of chia seeds. Got my chia seeds here. Great healthy fat, but also some good fiber in here. And then I added a touch of honey, a little drizzle of honey in there for some sweetness, and then some chopped bananas. Talk about gut friendly. This is an amazing choice. So I just mixed that together. I didn't worry about mixing it all through because those little nuggets of peanut butter will be amazing tomorrow. So I put that in my mason jar, covered it up, keep it in the fridge. This is going to last for up to 3 days. So great option for breakfast on the go, but also too meal planning, right? Meal prep. So stay tuned because I'll give you that recipe. All right, make sure you have that in your hands. Now the other recipe I want to show you also uses kefir. So I'm going to pull aside and just quickly demonstrate this for you. So in my little bowl, and this is another super simple. This will come together in a matter of minutes. I mean, you can't ask for more. So in this little bowl, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of my plain kefir. Wait till you see what we create here. Then to that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice. So this is fresh squeezed lemon juice. Nice little flavor we're going to add to this. And we're going to just estimate. This is a half of a teaspoon, so we're going to have to use a little bit of this. Oh, this is a tablespoon. So 1 tablespoon of the lemon juice. And then to that, we're going to add some spice, of course, right? So in this little spice jar, little bowl of goodness, I have garlic powder, onion powder, some dried dill weed, some dried parsley, and then some salt and fresh cracked pepper. So we're going to add that to our bowl. And you can use fresh versions of those herbs if you so desire. And we're going to just mix that together. Could you get any easier than that? So easy. Now guess what I just made? I made a dressing for our salads or to dip our veggies in. So I'm not going to even pour it into the bowl. I'm just going to dip my veggies right in here. But this is ranch dressing. Hello. What we did is we just used a fermented beverage, good for the gut, and we just totally took our ranch dressing and we went to another dimension with it. We added some beneficial bacteria, 12 strains to be exact, which will reinforce the beneficial bacteria that live in our gut to support our immune function and really help to bring nourishment into our day-to-day routine. So I'm just going to give this a try. Now, I will share this recipe with you also. I'd love to hear if you give this a whirl. It's a keeper. I hope you don't mind me eating. I hope you get to try this one. I thank you all so much for watching. Please stay tuned for more videos. I have so much more to share. And I thank you all for using nutrition to harness the power that it can bring to your life. Thank you.